What's good, y'all? I'm here with another video, and today we're gonna be reacting to Ohara, 20 mind-blowing facts. Well, not facts, it's plot holes in One Piece that don't make any sense, I believe. I can't think of none right now, but I'm sure when I see it, it's gonna be like, oh, I get it. So let's just get into it.
Even though One Piece is undoubtedly one of the greatest stories of all time, in every beloved series that goes on for a long time, there are parts that are confusing, frustrating, or straight up don't make any sense. That's right, here are the 20 biggest plot holes in One Piece, ranked from some minor hilarious inconsistencies to the biggest controversies that almost broke the fan base. And actually starting with the very first chapter of One Piece, where Shanks gets his arm bitten off by a pretty weak sea monster while saving Luffy. And while this no doubt is an incredibly cool moment, if we look at everything we know about Shanks at this point in time, there is absolutely no way that he should have lost his arm here. I mean, we see much.
The only thing I could think of in this situation is that he lost his arm to show Luffy how dangerous it is to be a pirate. Other than that, I can't really see nothing. I can't.
Weaker characters than Shanks take out enormous sea creatures all the time. Even Luffy takes out this very same monster when he first starts his journey. And we do now know that Shanks at this point in the story already had a bounty of over 1 billion berries, and we just recently saw how truly overpowered Shanks is when he defeated Captain Kidd. However, what is interesting is that we were told in an interview that Oda was only convinced to make Shanks lose his arm by one of his editors in order to make the climax of that first chapter a little bit more dramatic. And so it definitely didn't make any sense for Shanks to have lost his arm, unless he did it, of course, to inspire Luffy. But since Oda didn't originally plan to do it, it still really stands out as a massive inconsistency. And speaking of master plans, Vivi's plan to infiltrate the criminal organization Baroque Works has just never made any sense either. We first meet the Alabaster Princess in chapter 103, where she's undercover as the special agent Miss Wednesday. But come on, I mean, what kind of secret organization can't tell that these two are the exact same person? Especially since their leader, the warlord Crocodile, is trying to take over her own home country.
It's like Superman with his glasses.
And is plotting against her royal family. However, this is nothing compared to the ridiculously small role that bounty posters actually play in the story. I mean, think about it. The One Piece world is full of pirates, most of whom have bounties issued by the world government. But we have basically never seen anyone really try to seriously collect a bounty. And honestly, what's even the point of having a bounty for monstrous fighters like Big Mom, Kaido, and Shanks, besides just having something really cool for the fans to power scale? So not so much a plot hole, but more of a missed opportunity, I think, to do something really cool with the whole concept of bounty posters, especially because they are so much beloved by fans. Which actually brings me to another major inconsistency that has always bothered me for a while now. Emu, Joy Boy, and Rock's Back are arguably the three most important characters in the entire story outside of Luffy, and yet all three of these were introduced super late into the story. And wait, before you say that this isn't a plot hole technically, let me explain. Emu is the secret ruler of the entire world, of the world government. Joy Boy was a mysterious leader of the Ancient Kingdom during the Void Century, and Roxy Zabak was a pirate who tried to take over the entire world nearly 40 years ago, and his crew was stronger than any other out there. And while we assume that Joy Boy is dead, the introduction of Rox and especially Emu made a lot of fans who've also seen Naruto go into heavy sweats as they imagined another situation like this one. And while I do trust Oda to make these characters work in the story, it is a bit weird that literally almost no one in the world should know about Rox. I mean, yes, the government cleansed the history, but I mean, powerful pirates are famous in the world of One Piece for a reason, so wouldn't at least some people around the world know about the captain of the strongest pirate crew ever? As for our next plot hole, just look at this. Zoro is half the size of this massive chat here, Kozuki Oden, but somehow they both use this exact same sword
Yeah, I've seen
perfectly
that.
fine. And if you've been following One Piece for a while, you'll probably know that this isn't the only example of weird size issues in the story. One Piece has many outrageous character designs and sizes. In fact, I actually just made a video where I compared the smallest characters all the way to the biggest things in One Piece, but sometimes we get other ridiculous examples like this Marine captain who is almost twice as tall as Luffy, talking to one of the guards of the underwater prison in Pull Down, who supposedly is over 3 meters tall himself. Now, they are officially only 2 feet different in height, but just look at all of these panels here. This jailer
tall.
is twice as tall as the Marine, so while we love Oda's creative designs, it can be a little bit hard to keep track of the sizes in One Piece. The next one is really easy to keep up with though, as it's a giant meme in the entire community. The infamous 5 flying devil fruits. In case you don't know what I'm talking about, back in chapter
what are you talking
169 of One Piece, we're being told that this guy has one of only 5 flying type devil fruits that exist in the world. 5, huh? Now, without even going into anything else, if we just name the ones that actually have wings, there is Pell, Marco the Phoenix, these Buck Devil Fruit users, this guy with angel wings, a flying dinosaur, and a guy that can turn into a flock of crows. But of course, on top of that, there are many other fruits who don't necessarily have wings, but can easily fly because of their devil fruits, like Kaido, Robin, and basically anyone else who has eaten a Logia devil fruit. Heck, there's even this guy who can fly using his books. So maybe Oda only had 5 in mind back when he wrote that chapter, or maybe he specifically meant that only some zone devil fruits give you wings. But either way, it has
Probably.
become a real joke throughout the story
I
for
forgot
a
about
reason,
that, I
which
ain't
is
gonna lie.
definitely not something you can say about the heavy hitters coming up in this list as well. And speaking of heavy hitters, next in the ranking is devil fruits that should be even more broken than they already are. For example, this terrifying
Yeah,
little
that's
girl
broken.
who can literally turn people into toys that are then completely forgotten by everyone they knew just by touching them. Or Lost Devil Fruit, which basically lets you do whatever you want to someone within your surgical room.
His devil fruit literally name is the op fruit. 2 letters. OP. Like, come on, bro.
Or this Wano Samurai's fruit that lets anything that you draw literally come to life. Clones, weapons, basically anything if you are a skilled artist. And the Admiral Kizaru's light fruit, which should let him travel around the world multiple times in a single second. I mean, these are just some insane powers that don't really scale in the story at all as they should. Now, there
It's
has
anime.
been an explanation in the story for why certain powers like Laws and Sugars aren't even more powerful than they should be. And that's because we're told by Law himself that his powers are limited by the hockey mastery of another person. In other words, if someone has way stronger hockey, then some powers won't work on them simply. But then we can simply ask ourselves, what if someone like Zoro, who has incredible advanced Conqueror's hockey, ate Sugar's devil fruit instead? I mean, just imagine Zoro coming after you saying that he'll turn you into a little toy sword unless you subscribe to this channel.
That's
And even though we
crazy.
do know some things about devil fruits, there are still incredible mysteries around them. However, one common confusion is how much devil fruit users are affected by water. And this is something many people think is a plot hole, but is actually not. And that's because Oda has explained that a devil fruit user will only lose all of their strength and sink if they are mostly submerged in water. And so even though we see some characters standing in water up to the hips like Boa Hancock in the bathtub, they can still move around just fine. Also, devil fruit users don't lose their entire powers at once in water, but just gradually. As we've seen, for example, Luffy still stretch and even use Red Hawk when completely underwater. Although we do have one example of a devil fruit user not sinking in water when he absolutely should, when Mr. 3 is somehow able to float in Crocodile's flooded prison instead of sinking. Whoopsie.
My only thing with that is that there has been plenty of times where they've sunken in water for a good amount of time before they actually went up. To the point where it was like, bro, come on. They should have been dead. Like, Luffy and Wano should have been died, but just neither here nor there.
And while Mr. 3 probably should have drowned here, next is a character who actively tried to die but failed every single time
Kaido.
because he is just way too powerful. Back in chapter 795, we're fully introduced to the Emperor Kaido, who claims to be trying to kill himself by jumping off a sky island. But hold on a second, if he really wanted to die, why didn't he just jump into the ocean? I mean, unless he's a fishman, which he isn't, or he has some other way to breathe underwater, he should just drown, right? So that seems like a fairly simple solution that apparently Kaido himself never thought of. And this next one is going to literally cause you to
Haven't even
lose
thought
your
about that.
mind. So make some deep breaths and squeeze your favorite stress ball, because we are about to bring up one of the community's least favorite topics in One Piece: amnesia. And this isn't really a plot hole, but more of a plot convenience, which a lot of fans hate to see in the story. It first came up when Luffy's brother Sabo had forgotten Luffy and Ace and his entire previous life until he suddenly, very conveniently, remembered them when he saw that Ace died in the newspaper. But as the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, shouldn't he have known about Ace, who was a famous pirate in the Grand Line?
And has he not seen like newspapers of Ace and Luffy? Since they've been pirates for a good minute, and Ace has definitely been a pirate for a good minute, so how didn't you know? And their father, like Luffy's father, is Dragon, so why wouldn't he?
Big Mom's amnesia in Wano caused such heated controversy that some content creators even stopped covering One Piece for a while. So again, while technically not a plot hole, still something we really don't want to see in the story, but nothing compared to the #1 item coming up in this list. And would you believe that there is a character who has leveled up even more than Luffy since the start of the story? As unbelievable as it is, just look at Marine Captain Kobe's glow up from chapter 2 to the current storyline right now. He went from scrubbing decks for a weak pirate to going up against Emperors of the Sea. I mean, just what kind of training did Garp put him through for this to happen?
Boxed out,
but now, get ready, because so far in this ranking, everything has just been a relatively minor inconsistency or a little mistake. But now we're getting into the real controversial topics of this list. You know, the ones that people bring up most when complaining about One Piece, and with some of them, I do have to admit, there is some really valid criticism here. And so the next crazy plot hole is a problem both in One Piece and in our favorite social media platform, Twitter. Because there are many examples in One Piece where it makes no sense that a character or group doesn't know something that they absolutely should. For example, the world government has a whole agency devoted to spying, but somehow they don't understand that Chopper is more than just a Straw Hats crew's pet. Even though, yes, that is for comic relief, but still. And another glaring piece of
It still doesn't make sense, because it's like they have cameras on deck to take pictures of the like their posters. And I'm sure there's camera crews every time. Morgan's is there at all times. I'm already knowing it. Or he probably got people on site. So the fact that nobody from the government or anybody else has seen Chopper in his like other form is crazy.
Information is about the Sky Islands. I mean, basically no one in the world has heard of the Sky Islands except for apparently all of the pirates who've been there. I mean, just look at these examples we've seen in the story so far. Roger Pirates, Kaido, a member of the Worst Generation, and even Bellamy made it up there sometime after he was stomped by Luffy and Jaya. So if that many people can get up there, and there even seems to be a main entrance somewhere in the New World, then it shouldn't be such a major mystery or legend that they exist. But this is nothing compared to how bad, and there even seems to be a main entrance somewhere in the New World, then it shouldn't be such a major mystery or legend that they exist. But this is nothing compared to how badly the world seems to be misinformed about devil fruits. I mean, despite many of the most famous pirates and marines all being devil fruit users, there are still parts in the One Piece world where people think that these fruits are some sort of legend. And yes, while you can argue that the majority of devil fruit users can be found on the Grand Line, surely they shouldn't be so mysterious as they are, especially with newspaper deliveries available basically.
But how can you still feel that way if the people in the government have them, like the Navy and everybody? And if they are protecting the people all around the world, why would the people still think that it's false? Like it makes no sense.
Anywhere in the world. And as much as devil fruits remain mysterious, even more confusing is the next plot hole here. Who the hell has actually awakened their devil fruit? Has this guy? We don't know. But we know that these jailer beasts and even those world government agents have. Now, if you don't know, awakening a devil fruit is the ultimate power-up for a devil fruit user, but there appears to be some inconsistency about some characters who definitely should have awakened their fruits, but have apparently not done so. Because for all zone devil fruit users like Luffy, the world government agents, and even Kaido's child Yamato, when they awaken the devil fruits, they get this cloud-like scarf around their necks. However, there are other confirmed awakened zone fruit users, such as the jailer beast of Impel Down, and possibly even Chopper, who do not have this scarf. And even Kaido himself doesn't have that sort of scarf in his hybrid form. So why is that? Is Kaido just a special case because of his fruit? And is it for the jailers and Chopper because they're like not truly awakened, but kind of the animal got control over them? It's not really clear. Please
I don't know.
Fix that.
Or Big Mom.
But regardless of that, we'll
Mom.
actually be talking more about Kaido in the #1 plot hole on this list. And this next one nearly cost Luffy his life. That's because during the Baratie arc, Sanji did not know that devil fruit users can't swim, and he almost lets Luffy drown. However, just a while later in Thriller Bark, we do learn that as a child, Sanji actually read the legendary devil fruit encyclopedias. And you're telling me that this famous encyclopedia of devil fruits does not contain the #1 weakness of those magical powers? I mean, who wrote this thing? Well, it was probably Zoro's ancestor, for being real. Oh, but this next plot hole comes with a really important question. Would you rather live on a giant snail or an island full of broccoli? Well, I do hope that you chose the giant snail, because the broccoli island stands apparently no chance in a fight with the snail because of this next giant plot hole. That's because technology in One Piece is a major inconsistency. Some kingdoms like the Germa and the world government fight with super powered futuristic clones and laser beams, while other kingdoms fight with sticks and spears. And this has always been an issue, but technology advancement varies incredibly throughout the One Piece world. And even though it doesn't really make sense, admittedly, it is kind of part of the charm of One Piece for me. It is such a unique and varied world, and we do love the story.
But it's kind of like in real life too, because you have those rural areas that don't necessarily like use technology to do things, like to fight or anything like that. Granted, they do have like people have guns and stuff like that, but like there are still places that don't use like advanced technology. So it kinda, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate.
Because of it. Plus, the world government probably does suppress technology. It still seems kind of odd that some groups have so much and others have so little, and no one is talking to each other. Also, why is Morgan's the only one who has ever made an actual flying machine? I mean, seriously? Alright. On to the top 5 here. So get ready with your popcorn as we get to the biggest plot holes in the story that we love. Starting with, why didn't the world government actually try to kill Luffy when he was a weaker pirate? I mean, in chapter 1044, the same chapter that Luffy awakens Gear 5, we learn that the leaders of the world government have known the true nature of Luffy's devil fruit all along. And if he really is such a monumental threat to them, why didn't they just eliminate him? I mean, to be fair, they have always wanted Luffy dead and even sent ridiculously powerful people to do it, like Kuma and Thriller Bark. Then Admiral Aokiji found him after Skypiea, and Kizaru had multiple chances to kill him in Sabaody and on Marineford. But still, if we're being honest, the world government has never really gone all out to try and kill Luffy. And you can say that they didn't want to make a big deal of the devil fruit, which we'll talk more about coming up.
Yeah, because his bounty is
or that they were simply too naive to do it. But remember, the world government has been in power for 800 years, so they have to be pretty good at their job, right? Which makes this choice a pretty big oversight that
I guess they were just trying to make sure.
Really justified, except of course for story purposes. And while the world's government failed to kill Luffy, another incredible plot hole is all the times that Luffy should have actually died in the story. Now, it is true that the main characters have some sort of plot armor that
he got
keeps
heavy
them alive
plot
no matter
armor,
what, because it is their story. Even in a bloody masterpiece like Attack on Titan, the main character survived basically everything. Again, would not be a story if the main character's not around, but Luffy really should have died in the second chapter when his little boat got caught in that whirlpool. And again, when captured by this clown and the marine captains. There were multiple times that he should have died against the warlord crocodile, like when he was literally impaled, poisoned, and thrown into quicksand. Also, Marine admirals should have killed him multiple times. This secret agent could have easily done it after the first fight in Water 7, or while Luffy was in the underwater prison Impel Down, and so on and so forth. Should make a whole video about that, huh? But somehow Luffy always lifts, and you can call this his ability to make...
Nah, the Impel Down one is crazy. He was drenched in poison, bro. It was like, bro, come on, bro. Come on.
Friends or his determination.
Kaido killed that man like 3 times. At
the end of the day, some people will always feel less tension in the story when the main characters can survive pretty much anything. And one of the main reasons that Luffy did not die during the pre-time skip is because of this next plot hole. Why was Haki not really a thing during pre-time skip again? I mean, Haki is essentially the power of a person's will. There are 3 kinds, and the first 2 anyone in the world can easily learn. First is observation Haki, which allows you to sense attacks and people around you. Second is armament Haki, which allows a character to coat their body with a sort of armor. And only some people in the world with exceptionally strong wills can use the third one, Conqueror's Haki. Now,
alright, hold on. Before he even gets to the rest of this, I feel like pre-time skip should have showed Haki a little bit more than what it did, because I feel like characters like Ace got they got played, bro. Because if you read the Ace novel or whatever, he was on Whitebeard's ship learning how to use his Haki. Why wasn't his Haki as good as his Haki was supposed to be better than what we've seen? So why didn't we see that? I get it, he used his devil fruit more than his Haki, but bro, come on, bro. Let's be real. His Haki should be better than what it is. Never mind.
This power allows its user to easily dominate weak-willed individuals and eventually allows them to even enhance their physical attacks to the highest level. Basically, if you want to be a top-tier fighter in One Piece, you need some sort of high-level Haki, or best of it, all 3. However, there are so many instances in pre-time skip One Piece where a character should have known and should have used Haki, but they did not. For example, some of the strongest government secret agents never learned how to use Haki. Whitebeard, though weakened, never bothered to use Haki to block random bullets and swords at Marineford, and while hints of it were shown on rare occasions like Mantra and Skypiea, in general, it was not utilized at all and consistently by powerful characters, especially early on in the story. Now, some people justify this because Luffy didn't know Haki, so he wasn't perceiving it, and neither were we through his eyes. But this story is not being told through Luffy's eyes, so that doesn't exactly explain it. More likely is that Oda did not fully have the plan and idea for Haki worked out until years into the story, so it wasn't included so much in the pre-time skip arcs.
That's why.
But now, onwards to the top 2 here. Coming in just behind the most hated plot hole is the reveal of Luffy's true Devil Fruit powers. Now, this is a huge controversy that we've covered before on this channel. Essentially, Luffy's Devil Fruit is not the rubber fruit as we're told in chapter 1, but rather it's a mythical zone God Nika Devil Fruit that basically lets Luffy manifest his imagination into reality. Now, there are 2 sides to this debate. First, some people believe that Oda had this planned ever since the start of the story, which, to be fair, there have been a lot of hints for Luffy using unusual powers throughout One Piece, like Red Hawk, which lets him punch with fire, or how he can bend rubber in ways that should not be possible, like with Snake Man. And of course, there are some other hints like this famous panel during Skypiea that hints at Luffy being special. But on the other hand, many fans also felt that Oda just needed to make the story feel a little bit more interesting and decided to change this fruit near the end of the story. Not on a whim, but you know what I mean, pretty late on into the game. Now,
Well, that may be the case, but I feel like there was always gonna be a point where Luffy was like pretty special in some way, like because the Will of Deed thing is already like a main topic about it, and Luffy being a part of it, something special was already gonna be a part of him. Like he was always gonna have some reveal or something. So I mean, going from a rubber fruit to like a whole imagination fruit is crazy, but I mean,
Whatever the reason, one thing that will always bother me is why people who knew the true powers of this fruit didn't do more to stop or help Luffy with it. Like the government not going all out to kill their biggest threat, or why Shanks would risk Luffy dying and the devil fruit falling into the wrong hands once again after going through so much trouble of getting it. But not only that, there are also an incredible amount of future plot holes based on his powers of imagination. For example, what is the limit to Luffy's ability to change the world? I mean, we do know that he has an endless imagination, so could he change the world itself with the snap of his fingers? Faith and Oda, I'm sure we'll figure it out. But now, number one, and the most frequently raged about part of the story, fake out deaths. And by fake out deaths, we mean when Oda creates an emotional scene where it looks like a character has really died under tragic circumstances, just for that character to later on reappear perfectly fine, no scratch. Now,
real life Dragon Ball, for real, for real. Don't nobody die in this show, for real, for real. Like, there's very few people that's died in this show. I can't even remember somebody besides Ace dying in a pre-time skip. Honestly, like, I really can't remember. And post-time skip, I'm sure there's somebody, like Odin. Odin is dead. That's cool. But, like, that was in the past. I can't remember, well, the Scabbard dude. I don't want to say his name, but I kind of just spoiled it anyway. It is what it is. But yeah, not a lot of people die in this show. They kind of do a lot of fake outs, and it's not okay.
just some examples here are Pell, who sacrificed himself tragically by taking a bomb out of Alabasta. This guy who took a full lightning blast from Enel and, was just fine. This samurai who was literally cleaved into two parts and then just reappeared running around the castle. And many, many, many others. And it's not like Oda never kills a character. There have been deaths, such as of course Whitebeard and Ace during Marineford, of course, and countless deaths during flashbacks. But he just has a really hard time killing characters in the present story.
That's basically what I was saying. There's a lot of flashback deaths, but as far as like the current show, nobody dies for real, for real.
The main enemies of Wano, Kaido, and Big Mom were defeated and thrown into an actual volcano, but there are dozens of theories about how they actually could have survived this, because we've just such a hard time believing that Oda will actually kill somebody.
I don't think Big Mom
Please,
was
Oda,
dead.
just kill some people. So, while you could call this a plot hole, it really is just a frustrating choice by Oda to consistently give us these fake out deaths. Some readers have just accepted that Oda does this, but it does create an actual problem for the story itself, because it dramatically decreases tension of any major fight when you can't seriously believe that there are any risks for any of the characters you care about. Not only talking about Luffy here. And so deaths are a really rare appearance in One Piece, but that does not mean that Luffy never loses. In fact, he actually loses a lot. And if you want to see the surprisingly long list of everyone who has ever defeated Luffy in the story, well, you can watch this video right here. Thanks for watching. Even though One Piece is undoubtedly...
Alright, man, that's the end of the video, man. Make sure y'all like, subscribe. Yeah, he was definitely right about the last one. There are a lot of deaths, quote unquote. And because there are so many fake deaths, it kind of gets the Dragon Ball treatment to where when they fight and something real is on the line, it really doesn't matter in the end, because in Dragon Ball, they just seem like they just get the Dragon Balls and then somebody comes back to life or something they want is, it happens. Then in One Piece, somebody's supposed to be dying, but the whole time that they're okay, or they come back later on in the story. So it's like that moment in time isn't as emotional anymore, because half of those characters, if not most of those characters, aren't dead. So it's like the element of surprise is kind of getting like old, because it's like I don't have that element of surprise that somebody is going to die, because 9 times out of 10 they're probably not. That's the end of the video, man. Make sure y'all like, subscribe. I'm out.